Hi Year 12, I just thought I'd create a very short video just to explain what I'd like you to do with this activity when you're creating your own mark scheme. Creating your own mark scheme is effectively creating a really detailed essay plan. However, there's more focus on the assessment objectives. So actually, even though it appears more difficult, you're just creating a plan and thinking about where you will score or potentially score marks when you're actually writing this essay question. So here's the essay question. It's an application question. This was from, I think, 2019 or 18. I can't remember. It is a really recent question. So we have a conversation between two students discussing the topic of obedience. I find it fascinating how some people are able to resist obedience, said Jack. I think that some people just have a personality that gives them the confidence to remain independent. I disagree, replied Sarah. I think resisting obedience is more related to factors like the setting or the appearance of the authority figure. Discuss two explanations of resistance to obedience as part of your discussion and refer to the views expressed by Jack and Sarah in the conversation above. So it's a 16-mark question. We have the exam command word there, discuss. Discuss means that we have to include research to challenge or to support the explanations that we are making, which would be part of our AO3 if we're referring to research in this question. The actual explanations themselves would be AO1, and we can also include strengths and weaknesses of any research that we refer to, any parts of our explanation, and that would also score us AO3 marks. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to fill in the blanks on these tables. You can either do it on the computer, so just edit the document, or print this off and complete it by hand. Only write in bullet points, because that's how a mark scheme would effectively be created. The examiners would be provided with just a list of key ideas or key words that might appear in a student's answer. So we'll do the first part together. We know that this is an application question, so therefore the marks are balanced. AO2, the application part, means that we can achieve 4 marks, and that means that AO1 and AO3 are equal. They're both worth 6 marks each. So we can think about that with the amount of detail that we need to go into when creating this mark scheme. The application is to this question, to this conversation, sorry, and if we look at the question, discuss two explanations of resistance to obedience. As part of your discussion, refer to the views expressed by Jack and Sarah. Both individuals must be included in our mark scheme, because to achieve full marks on this question, a student must talk about Jack and Sarah. To only talk about one of these individuals or only apply to the situation once, so only talking about Jack's comments or about Sarah's comments, is restricted to a level 2 answer. Because we're creating a mark scheme, we have to create a mark scheme that includes the detail that gives us access to full marks. So we don't have to go extensive. We know that there's quite a lot of information that relates to why individuals remain independent and resist obedience. However, because it's an application question, we're only talking about Jack and Sarah. So it makes far more sense that we focus on the application and the conversation first, before then starting to consider how much information or all the different potential research studies and findings that we could include in our mark scheme for the AO1 and the AO3 marks. So I've here literally just copied and pasted the comments. So here we've got Jack. I've highlighted there the fact that Jack is talking about personality. So to score application marks on this essay, we would be expecting a student to either talk about locus of control or authoritarian personality. You can't just recycle and rehash the conversation that's in the scenario to score marks. You've got to demonstrate, or the student would be expected to demonstrate, that they understand how personality or research links personality to remaining independent. So we know that research does suggest that those with certain types of locus control and potentially authoritarian personalities are linked to independence. I'm not going to express any more than that, because then you have to include in your mark scheme, which is correct, what marks should be awarded for research into personality. We just need key terms there. We don't need any research, because it's only an application question, application mark, sorry. So we don't need any results, we don't need any studies, we just need to know the links between locus of control and authoritarian personality. We also need to talk about Sarah. Sarah's far more open than Jack's ideas. Factors like the setting or the appearance of the authority figure. So there we've got various different explanations like the setting or the appearance of the authority figure. The setting could be, for instance, we know Yale University compared to the rundown office block. Other factors like the setting could refer to internally within the procedure, having peer support who also disobey, removal of the buffers, the appearance of the authority figure himself, so removal of the white lab coat and wearing a uniform like a milkman's outfit or a guard's outfit, a security guard's outfit like in Bickman's research. But again, these are only applications, so we're not actually referring to the results of the study, we're just going into more specific details of what students could potentially write about there, that factors that increase independence or factors relating to the appearance of the authority figure that will also affect independence levels. Then what you do for your AO1, what information could be used to explain Jack's views and Sarah's views? Again, this is just going into a little more detail than you would do for your application. So here, if we wrote locus of control, then we'd want to go into a little more detail. We're referring to potential specific names, specific key terms. Is it internal? Is it external locus of control? Authoritarian personality, where does that develop from? Again, we'd only do this as bullet point. We don't need any research because this is just where we're demonstrating our knowledge and understanding. And because we have to talk about Jack and Sarah, and it's only worth 6 marks, we don't have to go into excessive amounts of detail if we were answering this question to achieve 4 marks. However, because this is a mark scheme, you have to include all the potential or the possible ways to score marks. So you could have 4 or 5 bullet points in each box. This is what a student could potentially score marks on if they discuss these points. The AO3 is a little more difficult, and that's where you might want to include a little more specific information. So I've made sure the boxes are a little bit bigger, despite the fact that it's also worth 6 marks. 3 marks for Jack and 3 marks for Sarah. So when you're writing your mark scheme for your AO3, what I'd like you to do is include signposts in your mark scheme. So include words like support, because that will really help you with your revision, or other signposts like however, on the other hand, alternatively, to demonstrate that you're challenging and you're going to raise limitations about the research. This is where we would go into more detail with the actual results of the studies, because you're effectively supporting some of the explanations that you've made in your AO1 when explaining Jack or Sarah. I've put there ethics. Ethics is a really weak discussion point, so we're going to completely leave it out of our mark scheme, because examiners would be told early on that ethical considerations aren't really credit-worthy for this kind of question. Because you're explaining Jack and Sarah's views, to then start to criticise research that supports Jack and Sarah's views by talking about ethics, you're starting to go a little bit off task and you're not actually doing the answering the question that's asked. So in your mark scheme, let's completely ignore ethics. However, as part of the evaluation, you could make it clear that the examiner could award marks for any discussion about the research that is being used to support or challenge Jack and Sarah's views in the context of internal or external validity of the procedure or the reliability of the results. So for instance, if you're talking about Milgram's variations as supporting research for Sarah's views, you could also challenge or award marks for challenging them viewpoints by saying, however, we can question the ecological validity of these findings, or potentially challenge the internal validity due to the mundane realism of the procedure actually involved using that electric shock machine. Okay, so that's all I want you to do. Just write in bullet point format. You can use your notes, and then this is optional. The final activity is completely optional, being independent. Once you've created your own mark scheme, it's a really good idea to then use that mark scheme to create a model answer. I'm not asking you to submit these for marking and assessment. This is completely independent. Or, which is a little more challenging, attempt the question using no notes and then use your own mark scheme to self-assess and identify where you have scored marks or where you haven't scored marks. If you're really struggling, then just send me an email and I'll respond and give you a little bit of support and guidance on what you might need to do.